Hey guys, Theo here from Believe Hi-Fi, and today we'll be going through the M3H, Bricasti's new DAC, preamplifier, and headphone amp all in one. So let's get into it. So the M3H from Bricasti, what is this exactly and who is it for? Well, the main function of this versatile product is essentially going to be the fact that it is a digital to analog converter. And now for the viewers who may not know exactly what that is, so essentially let me put it this way. Most of the music you're listening to is probably just a digital file. If it's streamed or it's a local file or anything really other than a vinyl. And the problem with the music format being digital is that sound is analog. So to get that digital file to make noise so you can hear it and enjoy it, you need some sort of digital to analog converter. Now you're probably thinking, I don't have a digital to analog converter. Well, they're inbuilt into your phones, your laptops, your computers, and everything else. The problem with this is the fact that the DACs that are built into there just aren't very good. So upgrading your DAC, what are you going to get? Well, you're going to get much better separation between all of the sounds and all of the instruments. You're going to get far superior resolution and clarity. You're going to get better depth and overall just a much better, clearer window into the music and a music experience. You're going to hear things that maybe you never heard before, and it's going to take your headphones or speakers to the next level. So what else does this do? Well, my version's got a headphone amplifier inbuilt. Now, while it's not a state-of-the-art headphone amplifier, it can still drive most headphones fairly well. Another unique thing about this is it has a very robust power supply. It's a big unit with a voltage swing, if I'm correct, of 15 plus or minus, which is a really almost impractical in terms of you'd never really use it, just such a large voltage swing. But this does mean it can handle something like an HD800 very well. And I found that I could even run the Susvaras straight from this unit, although I would definitely recommend a dedicated, much more powerful headphone amp to be part of the chain in that scenario. The other thing with this is this additional remote. So this is a good time to speak about the pricing. So just the unit without the headphone amplification and without the remote and without the network streamer edition is about $5,000 US, or in Australia, just under $9,000 if you buy it new at full RRP. So just this remote, let's talk USD. So it's going to take it from $5,000 to $5,500 US just for this remote, which I think is ridiculous, even though it's very nicely built and it feels awesome. $500 just, to me, that's a bit of a no-no. The headphone amp costs just as much as that remote. So I think the headphone amp edition is actually very good value for money. And then, so you've gone from 5 to 5.5 to 6, and then the network streamer part, which I didn't get, adds an extra $1,000 US on top, which would give you a really nice all-in-one here, which I think is pretty awesome. Now we've got that out the way, let's go on to the inputs and the outputs of the unit. So this unit here, in terms of inputs, you're going to obviously have your XLR inputs. You're going to have your SPDIF with RCA and BNC. You're going to have optical through Toslink playing 44.1 to 96K. And obviously there's going to be a USB input, which I did most of my personal listening through. Then if you've got that network streamer, you're also going to obviously have the Ethernet input. Now, so over USB, which is what I used, you're going to get sample rates from 44.1 up to 384 kilohertz. And DSD, while it won't do it natively, it'll do it as DOP up to 128 FS. So pretty good. I wish it did do DSD native, but I actually found the DSD sounded really good personally. So now outputs. If you did not get the version that I got with the headphone amp built in, the only outputs you're going to have is one balanced output, obviously through XLR, and an unbalanced through RCA. But this unit here also has balanced outputs for headphones, 4-pin XLR, and a single, unbalanced 1/4 inch output. So for the listening I did out of this unit without an external amp, my D8000 Pros, I do not have an aftermarket cable, and I was using the 1/4 inch output. And for the Verite closed, I was using the balanced output with my aftermarket non-cable. So that's it for the specs. Let's get into how it sounds and some comparisons too. So how does this unit sound? Well, first of all, let me get through the conversion. So most files you're going to be playing are PCM, and when you play a PCM file, it's going to use an 8 times up sampling. Furthermore from that, there's 2 filters. There's a linear phase and a minimum phase filter. Now the linear phase filter sounds a little bit sharper, a little bit more responsive on those like sort of start and the ends of each sounds, and it's a little bit more crisp, whereas the minimum phase is a little bit sweeter, a little bit warmer, a little bit, some would say, natural sounding. So with most of the listening I did, I actually just found I preferred the minimum phase and minimum phase 0, which is the least minimum phase you can have. So I don't like anything to be too extreme, but that's where I landed, at minimum phase 0, and I think it sounded the best there. I had the most enjoyment and the best experience with my music at minimum phase 0. Now, overall, this DAC, what is the characteristic of it? Well, I wouldn't say it is an ultimate hyper-resolution king that is ultimately analytical and cold. I would say it's more something that lets you enjoy the music. It's got a really full body to the images. You know, it doesn't seem thin. Each instrument or each sound has some real body and real thickness to that sound. And while I said it's not this hyper resolution detail king, still the detail you're getting here is really top notch. There's nothing you're going to miss out on, really. But just in comparison to something else in its price range that just focuses on being as articulate as possible, maybe you're missing just a tad of that hyper resolution, but what you'll get in return is a meatier sound that may be, for you, more enjoyable depending on what you like. So other than that, I found it to be something that I really enjoyed, because obviously I purchased this unit. And I'm going to bring up a Chord product again because I think they're the most well-known, and I think they're absolutely the pinnacle of resolution for most people in terms of the DAC world. So I did try quite a few DACs, but it really came down to the TT2 and this unit right here, the Bricasti M3H. So let me just get a few quick points out of the way. Now, the TT2's headphone amplifier section is more powerful. However, this unit here may be due to the gain or maybe due to the current, because the power supply is super high voltage swing. But the headphone amplifier here seemed to be able to drive very hard, to drive headphones easier. So you didn't have to turn the knob as much, but still it doesn't put out as much power as the TT2. Now, the TT2 also probably beats it out when it comes to when you're just trying to close your eyes and hear absolutely every tiny little detail. You know, the leading edge of that note and just every tiny little thing. And you want to listen and hear like, wow, I really heard that in a clearer way than I've ever heard it before. I would say that the TT2 wins there. I think it is technically maybe a better DAC. But why did I then go out and purchase this one instead? Well, for me, it came down to the fact that this gave me an experience where, unless I was so overly focused on hearing every tiny, minute thing, the experience I had was just more enjoyable here. As I said before, the imaging was just a little bit more, had a bit more meat to the sound. And that meant vocals and instrument. It just had more to it. Some would say this DAC is maybe a bit rounder sounding. And it also, for me, led to less fatigue. I found with the headphones I have, with the TT2, it could be a tad little bit sharp, or sharper than this unit, of course, which has a little bit of a richer sound. I would say this is pretty much dead neutral, but maybe a tad little bit of richness or warmth in there. Now, in terms of the soundstage I got from both, I actually got a bigger soundstage with the Bricasti, and I had more depth too, or felt like more, as I said, that more weight to each sound. But with the TT2, I think the imaging was a little bit more laser pinpoint precise. So with these DACs and all-in-one headphone amps, it's really a tough call, Do you take the ultra precision, or do you take something that's a little bit rounder and maybe a little bit more meaty and enjoyable that you can relax to? That's really up to you. Where this unit, I think, gave me a little bit more pleasure and made the difference a little bit easier for me was when it came to speaker or monitor listening. I just found, for some reason, the depth I was getting to the sound and the holographic nature of the sound just sounded much nicer for me with this unit over the TT2. And because I need this for hi-fi and headphones, well, that's what led me to go for this. And also the fact I've got this overpriced remote. Now, while it's overpriced, it still means I could sit back and turn up my speakers and control my speakers from the headphone amplifier, or in that case, it's used as a preamp and DAC, and I could control the output noise here. So at the end of the day, that's why I went with this unit. To me, I wanted the emotional engagement and the enjoyment, and I still got all that detail that I needed. And that's why I went for this over what the TT2 gave me, which was that tiny little bit more of ultra resolution, which, are you really going to notice it when you're just really wanting to enjoy music? Probably not. But, when you're doing an A/B, you are going to hear it a little bit. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the product. I think it's awesome, but so is the TT2, and I think either one you're winning. Just keep in mind that's the trade-off you're going to have to make with your money. And yeah, I don't regret my purchase, and I think it's going to stay in my system for a long time. All right, so that's going to do it for today. I really hope you enjoyed the review and the comparisons, and I really just wanted to give you a natural, organic representation on my experience with this so you can make an informed decision. I don't want to overhype products. I want to state the pros, the cons, and really give you an idea into what this is going to do for you and is it the right product for you. So moving forward, just a bit of a channel update. So I'm going to be potentially doing some different things. So I definitely want to make some opinion videos on how to listen to music, or what to listen for when assessing gear, better said. I want to maybe touch on some album reviews. I want to maybe go through some playlists or albums I use to assess gear. I also am definitely going to step into doing some 2-channel hi-fi stuff as well, and potentially even do some interviews with some mastering engineers and musicians just to spark some interest and get a different window into listening. So again, please like, please subscribe. We've got a whole bunch of cool stuff with a new video every single week, and I'm sure I'll see you there.